Hey, what's up everybody, it's Undy here, and I'm so happy to finally be able to bring you this video series dealing with tuning your drums. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the most tricky tom, perhaps the most tricky rack tom, the 12-inch, and I'm going to show you my method of tuning. And this can be applied to all rack toms. I have a bit of a different method for my floor toms, and I'm going to take and I'm going to tune my 16-inch, which tends to be the most tricky floor tom as well. So I'm really looking forward to this opportunity to share my know-how with you guys, and by no means am I perfect, but I hope this helps for you to be able to get control over how you get your sound. All right, so let's get started. What are you going to need to tune effectively? Well, you're going to need a drum key. This lovely drum key I've got here is made by my good friends over there at Snareweight. You're going to need a mallet or a drumstick, preferably a mallet. This helps you to identify different tones around the drum. And naturally, you're going to need Remo Drumheads. This can be accomplished with other drum heads, but my preference is Remo. Really, they allow me to be me, to achieve my sound with very little issues. And I'm looking forward to showing you guys my methods. All right, so stay tuned. What we have here is a 12 by 8-inch DW Collector's tom. It is a maple mahogany drum made by DW, and really warm, nice, big, boomy sound, which I love. And on my resonant side, and in fact, this is going to be on all of my drums, rack toms that is, or toms, are Remo Ambassador Clear. And then on the batter side, we have some Clear Emperors. Standard, man. These have been played a little bit, thus the stick marks, but it's going to be really good for you to be able to identify how to tune even used heads from this video. So without any further ado, let's get to detuning this tom. Now, I thought it was important that I mentioned that when you're tuning your drums in your hands, they tend to sound very differently in your hand without being mounted than when they are mounted. So for this tuning video, I'm actually going to use a tom mount to tune this 12-inch tom for you guys. All right? Dead as a doornail. All right, so I always start with my resonant head. It's important that you know this. The reason is because the tone comes from your RESO side, okay? We're gonna focus on achieving a really good fundamental note, right? Like getting the head in tune with the drum, and then we're going to make sure that all of the lugs tonally match each other, okay? So let's get started. So I'm going to take this part of my key here, and I'm going to pretty much get the tension on all of the screws evenly until I meet the very slightest resistance. Okay, so now that I've done that again, I'm going to still use this part. This allows me to just twist the key here, and I'm going to put a little bit of tension on each lug, okay? Almost like 3/4 of a turn. And eventually you start to hear the drum head swing, swing, all right, so now, as I mentioned, with your mallet and this cloth, I'm going to use to mute the bottom head, right? And we're going to check the tone of each of these lugs. things I always find is that there are always two opposing lugs that sound lower than the rest or higher than the rest. But this is certainly not in tune with itself yet, so I'm going to bring it up by 1/4 of a turn each time. And let's hear it again. So what I hear is bam, bam, oh, bam, bam, bam. So these two are lower. So I'm just going to correct just by a very small turn these two, and let's see what kind of let's see what we're getting. All right, so that one has to come up as well. Very small turns. All right, so now I need to come up some more here again. That's a little too high. This head is really singing. I'm not sure if you can hear that. All right, so I'm satisfied so far with the way this drum head is responding. So then what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn the drum over to the batter side, and we're going to get the relationship between the batter side and the resonant side to be pretty close together. However, usually, in order to achieve some pitch bend, and this is what I learned from John Good, you want to have the batter side slightly higher than the RESO side to get that boom tone. And that's what we all love in these 12-inch bigger toms, right? So let's try it. So we're gonna do the same thing. We're going to get as much tension. As soon as we get a little bit of resistance, we let it go. Let it go. Usually people finger tighten. I just don't feel like my hands being raw. So that's how I start ordinarily, right? Now, we're going to give 1/4 of a turn each way around, okay? It's pretty bad so far, right? But I'm starting to get a really good feel for what the drum will sound like once we get this drum in tune. Usually, a quick tip for you, usually if you're getting some strange sounds, or that is once the heads are in tune with each other, ordinarily I find it's your RESO head, not your batter head so much. Okay, so I'm gonna try another trick here. I'm hearing some strange ripple sounds. So what I'm gonna do is press on the head a little bit here, and I'm seeing some ripples right here. So I'm gonna get rid of those. Now let's hear it. Okay, so now let's bring it up a little bit more. A really minute few turns here. Less is more. Now, I haven't fine-tuned, but you can tell that this drum is ready to sing. All right, so time, use your towel, mute your RESO. Let's find out what's giving us some problems here. these two are higher than the rest. So I'm just gonna bring these 4 up. Remember, always 2 opposing ones that do that. This one's a little lower than I'd like. This one up a little. All right, let's see how this drum sounds now. It sounds really good to me so far. I got a little bit more fine tuning to do here, but so far you can hear that this drum is really singing. Right? So let's do a little bit more fine tuning. I think I need to bring this head up a little bit more, just a little bit more. Bring these down. Oh, we're gonna have some singing now. Really good stuff, right? Now, it's worth stating that your room, the room you're playing in, the difference between ceiling heights, sonic properties in different rooms will bring out or pronounce certain inconsistencies in your tone than others, right? So what I find in my room is I oftentimes have a little wonkiness going on with my 12-inch toms because it's just tuned that way. So I use some dampening to dampen out some of the unwanted overtones that I oftentimes get. But so far, I'm pretty happy with what I'm getting. I think there's something also very important that I need to mention, and that is what you hear and what a microphone hears are oftentimes 2 very different things. So in later videos, I will talk about microphone placement to bring out the best possible sound in your drums and from your hard work at tuning. This drum is really singing, guys. All right, let me just make sure my bottom head is good as well. I'm gonna switch it out. It's already mounted, so we already know that we've achieved maximum resonance. That's low. And these 2 are low. All right. Now, let's check it out one more time. That little adjustment means a lot. Remember, your tone comes from your bottom head. So far, I'm happy with that. And for argument's sake, I'm certainly going to give you an opportunity to hear this under some microphones so that you can see what this sounds like. No muffling, just open, but under some microphones. All right? And there we have it. Just a few points to remember. 1, the tone that you're hearing really has a lot to do with your resonant head. So focus on getting your resonant head in tune with the drum. Let that head sing, right? You want to really hear that head singing when you're muting the bottom head. The other thing is the relationship between the top and the bottom head is super critical, guys. When I think about sonic properties, basically you want that tone to be able to bounce between those heads properly. So don't tighten one of them too much so that that doesn't happen. And as you saw in my process, get those tension rods as close to perfectly in tune or at the same pitch as the others. That will really help with eliminating some of those overtones that you hear. And another critically important piece to remember is this. Your microphone picks up something very different than what you hear with your natural ears. So be kind to yourself. Enjoy the process. Less is better. Less is more. Enjoy the ride. In the next video, we're going to talk a bit more about 16-inch floor toms in this series, okay? Which are really not easy to tune. But we're going to take our time there too. As I mentioned, I tune my floor toms a bit different than I tune my rack toms. So you'll see a bit of a difference, but the same concept remains. Focus on that bottom head. All right, look out for part 2.